All right, guys, welcome to a new episode of No Time to Explain. If you guys do anything today, please stay for the entirety of the video because I got some information that I don't think anybody has talked about. Let's get right into the meat and potatoes, all right? So, as more news comes out about the ESPN the past week, we're starting to see that they have some deep-rooted issues within their organization, from Malika Andrews and her rampage against Stephen A, and now some disturbing news that was just released about Rachel Nichols and her exit from ESPN. Rachel Nichols recently did an episode on All the Smoke with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. She was discussing the details of her departure from ESPN. I'll go ahead and play the clip.
I'll know it was 2020, right?
Yeah,
so
the world was
we had a pandemic.
Crazy spot.
There was the tragic murder of your friend, George Floyd. A lot of difficult conversations with this country looking itself in the face, seeing what had to change and be different. And the New York Times did an expose in July of 2020 on racism at ESPN and the lack of opportunities for people of color. And the executives at ESPN said what I think people would expect, all the right things about we'd like to give more people more opportunities. We're continuing to grow, all of those things. And around the same time, I got a phone call asking me, would I step aside for Maria to host the NBA Finals and have me go back to being a sideline reporter? And they stressed it was my choice. They weren't telling me to do this because it was in my contract, but they were putting a lot of pressure on me. You know, I was being told, well, you're not a team player. Like, hey, I worked so long, decades for this job. I have done everything that was asked. We put on some great shows leading up to the playoffs, and I wanted a chance to do it. And at this time, I was also getting ready to leave for the bubble and went down there, and it was a different set of equipment than I had been using to broadcast at home. So my very first day, I'm there, I'm using the new equipment, and I didn't know that if you leave a particular app running in the background, that the line from my hotel room, looking into my hotel room, to Bristol would stay open. So I thought I was done for the day. I did the things you would do on your first day in a hotel room. I spent hours unpacking, called my husband, talked to my kids, called some friends, called my doctor. And unfortunately, that entire time, nobody back at ESPN told me that there was an open line to my hotel room and anyone who looked at the feed could see me. No one shut it off. Decided, oh, she clearly doesn't know she's being watched unpacking or doing all these other things. And at least one person decided to just sit and watch and started spying on me like I was their own personal television show. And when they heard something they thought was juicy, they picked up their cell phone and they started recording my conversation on their cell phone.
A personal conversation?
Yeah, this was a conversation between me and a friend. We talked about a lot of different things, but then he brought up the article that had been in the paper about the lack of opportunities for people of color at ESPN, and we started talking about how my situation may intersect with some of the race and gender history of a network that is, again, well documented, is complicated history with both of those kinds of things and those issues. So we started talking about it, and I want to try to get, if I have it here, exactly what I said, because I think there's a lot of confusion over that, and there's been a lot of bad headlines.
So let's get it clear.
So let's just get it clear.
Right.
So here it is. I called Maria Taylor incredibly talented. Then I said, I wish Maria Taylor all the success in the world. She covers football, she covers basketball. If you need to give her more things to do because you, ESPN, are feeling pressure about your crappy long-time record on diversity, which, by the way, I know personally from the female side, well, then go for it.
Now, I want to break down a few things. She stated, one, let's start with the article that the New York Times released about racism at ESPN. This article, in my opinion, is what sparked everything. And mind you, this article was released in July before the NBA Finals took place in the bubble. And I'm going to read one of the sections verbatim about what happened in this article, and it's going to tell you exactly why Maria Taylor was offered the NBA Finals job. So in this article, they was discussing issues that Black employees face at ESPN. one moment stood out to me the most. There was a meeting of more than 200 people to discuss college football coverage, and some of the Black employees began sharing their personal experiences with discrimination at ESPN. Maria Taylor, who has hosted several shows, spoke about her treatment at ESPN. She was then interrupted by a coworker, a play-by-play announcer, who apparently did not realize his microphone was muted. The announcer, Dave Lamont, could be heard complaining to someone that the call was just a griping session for Black employees. Now, that's all I need to say. Dave Lamont in this meeting said this meeting is just a griping session for Black employees. And it happened to Maria Taylor of all people while she was talking. So when I read that information, you know what comes to mind? They didn't give Maria Taylor the job because they felt like the NBA Finals job, because they felt like she would be the best for the job. They were trying to make it up to Maria Taylor by giving her the Finals job. Even though since 2019, Rachel Nichols' contract, it was stated she would work the NBA Finals job. ESPN wanted to save face from the article and save face with what happened with Maria Taylor. And it's not a coincidence that not only is Rachel Nichols gone from ESPN, she's now a member of Showtime, but Maria Taylor is also gone. She's at CBS. So that tells me ESPN has an issue. This had nothing to do with inclusion. It had nothing to do with diversity. It wasn't organic. The decision to give Maria Taylor the Finals job was due to them trying to cover up their blunder. And we all know forced diversity is not real diversity. I could care less. Imagine for 25 years you work towards a goal and you earn it. And when you finally get it, it's taken away because your company is feeling pressure to force diversity, because they've had so many bad practices over the years. This wasn't a small thing when it came out. If anybody can recall, 2020 was a rough year. You know, I don't like to get into politics. I don't like to get into race. I don't like to get into those things at all. This is not what this channel is about. It is strictly about sports coverage. But because of the time that we were in 2020, ESPN was under a lot of pressure that the vice president had to come out and talk about these things and say, we're trying to do better. So it's just mind boggling that this is the true reason, in my opinion, this is what it seems like. They gave Maria Taylor the Finals job, because why else would you not have Rachel Nichols work the NBA Finals if it's already in her contract from 2019? Whenever that contract extension was done, all of a sudden you want Maria Taylor to do the Finals. And I think it has a lot to do of what happened in this meeting. Now, when Rachel's show, The Jump, was canceled and she parted ways with ESPN, the reason was behind her comments, where she basically stated that, hey, they're giving Maria Taylor this job because they're feeling pressure from diversity, which was 100% accurate. Now, the media initially labeled this as something she did on a hot mic, and that was not true. She was spied on in a personal conversation in her hotel room for who knows how long. They took that audio and they broke the story to the New York Times. Whoever leaked that audio, they went to the New York Times. The same people who blasted ESPN for their racial practices. Now, I don't know about y'all, but that seems very fishy, and it's very disturbing that someone or whoever it was at ESPN was spying on Rachel Nichols in her hotel room. Like, to me, ESPN has a big issue. I'm glad that Rachel Nichols was actually able to come out and be able to tell the truth about what happened there. But we all know that there's a lot going on at ESPN right now. But anyway, guys, I don't want to take up too much of your time today. This has been another episode of No Time to Explain. Let me know in the comments. Do you guys agree with me? Do you disagree? Why or why not? Go ahead and leave a comment below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.